Stock futures are down ahead of the opening bell to start the week on Wall Street. The Dow dropped more than 300 points. Both the Nasdaq and S&P 500 also showed declines. Wall Street suffered a sharp sell-off on Friday after the Fed Reserve chief seemed to indicate that the central bank would continue raising interest rates. The U.S. economy shrank at a slightly slower pace in the second quarter than previously reported. The GDP contracted at an annualized rate of 0.6%. That's compared to a 1.6% rate in the first quarter. Economists believe raging inflation and higher interest rates are impacting spending. The Biden administration will end its free giveaway of COVID tests on Friday, citing insufficient congressional funding. Officials are reportedly being cautious because a stockpile of tests is getting depleted, and they may not have enough in the event of a potential surge this fall. The White House revealed its plan to cancel thousands of dollars of student debt for individual borrowers. While many borrowers that have been burdened by excessive debt for years expressed excitement about the plan, others have cautioned that it could impact already high inflation. Many Republicans have also expressed their opposition to the plan.
I think it was the wrong solution to what is a real problem, but the wrong solution at the wrong time, because I agree it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. Inflation is out of control. Just handing out money to people and being unfair to the people who worked hard to pay off their debt and pouring that money into the inflationary economy is really bad.
So with more on this, we want to bring in Marc Goldwein. He's a senior vice president and senior policy director at the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so let's talk about this, because you have expressed concerns about the impact of this kind of plan that it could have on inflation, and my non-economist mind sort of gets it. I go, there's more money to spend, which means increased demand, and that could drive the cost stuff of things. But I know that's simple. That's too simple. So what are the components of the new plan that you think will have the greatest impact on inflation?
You know, I think actually you nailed it. This is a policy that's going to benefit 12% of Americans at the cost of the other 88% who are going to see higher costs at the grocery store, at the gas pump, and everywhere else. There's really two reasons. The first is that if people are not required to pay down their debt, they're going to spend their money elsewhere in the economy. And while that's good when the economy is weak, it's actually really bad when the economy is overheated, because that more spending when the economy is oversaturated leads to higher prices. The second is that this is going to actually drive up tuition costs in particular, because people are going to start expecting future presidents to cancel debt. They'll be less sensitive to prices because they'll borrow more. Colleges will respond by jacking up tuition more than it already is. And that's just going to add even more inflation to the fire.
So I want to sort of push back a little bit, because, you know, we've heard all these horror stories of people who are sort of caught in suspended animation in terms of their growth because they can't get out of paying this debt. So they can't buy the house they want to, or they can't get married. They can't sort of keep moving forward to becoming full-fledged taxpayers, if you will. So what about that counter argument that, you know, lifting this burden can then push people who are sort of caught living the lifestyle that they were living, you know, right after they graduated, and get them to be more active participants in the economy, and that's a good thing?
That's a great question. So first, let me say that's a minority of borrowers. It's an important set that we should be focused on, and we should be having targeted policies to help people that really are stuck. But all of those arguments that they're going to go out and be able to spend more are exactly why this is inflationary. Like, we love that people are going to be able to go buy homes and go buy cars. But when the economy is already overheated, more people buying cars is just going to add to car prices. More people buying homes is just going to add to housing prices. So that's the trade-off. And again, this is a policy that's going to be really helpful to 12% of Americans, some subset who really need it, but it's going to be at the expense of the other 88%.
The other big sort of mystery or question mark, I think, is just how much this is going to cost, because it's difficult to determine. We're talking about money that the government has already put out with the expectation that over several decades it will get it back. You guys have sort of crunched the numbers. What's the conclusion that you have come to about the overall cost of this?
So we've estimated this is going to cost all the policies about $500 billion, which is twice as much as the Inflation Reduction Act saved over 10 years. The Penn Wharton budget model thinks it's going to be even more. They estimate $600 billion to $1 trillion. I think our numbers are probably closer, but any of those are extremely costly and scary. And the White House has been talking about the importance of deficit reduction, rightly so. This is going to undermine all of that. It's going to erase the gains they've made several times over.
So do you think that there needs to be more to this, more components to this? That loan forgiveness is one thing, but you also have to, like you mentioned, make sure that the cost of tuition doesn't go up, or perhaps be more targeted with the forgiveness. Do you think that this is kind of like, in a way, kind of using a blunt tool for a more complicated challenge?
That's exactly right. Not only is this a blunt tool, not only is it a Band-Aid, but it's actually going to make the underlying situation worse. What we should have done is some targeted forgiveness, especially fixing the income-driven repayment program, but then focused on college costs themselves. Pressure universities to accept more transfer credits, whether it's AP or community college, to offer more no-frills degrees, to cut out some of their administrative fat, put downward pressure on tuition. This doesn't do anything to improve college affordability. In fact, it makes it worse.
Marc Goldwein, really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.